Hey, ADHDers. We're always looking for something that's going to finally work to fix our brains, right? Tools, hacks, give me the bullet points, a list, whatever, just help, right? Does that sound like you? That sounds like just about every single person I know with ADHD at one time or another, because we all have challenges we're trying to overcome. Now, some of us think we have nothing but challenges. And those people on a level from 1 to 10, they're at an 8, 9, or a 10, right? They're at the WTF level. Some people are closer to 1, which is, I'm chill. I don't have any problems. ADHD is fine. I'm just going to sit here and, pop a gummy and let the world go by. Um, if you're at a level one, you're probably not watching me right now. But between chill and WTF, where are you on a scale from 1 to 10? Maybe you're more like a 4 or 5 or 6, where you have it under control sometimes, but a lot of times you're really struggling and you're really trying to figure it out. Some people are closer to the 7, 8, 9, or even 10, where they're like, look at the world is just caving in on me right now, and I just need quick answers. Wherever you are on that scale, pop in the comments and let me know. Are you a 6 where you're like, you know what? I'm kind of right there. I need some help, but just give me some tips and tools. And I get that a lot. I have a lot of people that are like, just give me a list of things to do. And it's not really that easy. So before I get going, first I need to make a medical disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor or a licensed therapist or psychologist, and nothing I say in this video or chat or any others is to be construed as medical advice. When I talk to you, it is for informational and educational purposes only, to help you understand a little bit more about how your brain works. And if you need further therapy work, you go to see a therapist. But I'm a coach. So who am I exactly? For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Tracy Lorenzo. I am a certified ADHD coach. I'm also a certified women's empowerment coach. I'm also an ADHDer like you, so I get it. And there was a time in my life where I was much higher on that scale from 1 to 10 than I am now. But I'm also certified in cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. I'm also certified in rational emotive behavioral therapy, which is kind of a sister to CBT. And I've also completed other ADHD trainings, including ADHD clinical services provider training, because I wanted to know how my brain worked. I wanted to try to fix my brain. And then once I started to understand what was going on in my brain, then I wanted to reach out and help other people. So that's who I am. And on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm most days closer to, maybe a 3 or 4 or a 2. I haven't achieved 1 and I don't think I ever want to achieve 1. But then there are days that I am more like an 8 or 9. But it's all about balance and figuring out how to move yourself from 8, 9, or even 10 really quickly back to the other side of the scale. So do me a favor, pop in the comments and let me know where you are on that scale. And, when before I understood ADHD, before I knew I had it, and then before I really understood everything that was involved in ADHD, there were a lot of days that I was a 9 or a 10. There were even a few days that I couldn't get out of bed. There was one day in particular that I sat on the floor in my basement and just sobbed, surrounded by this overwhelming mess that I needed to fix and clean up so that I could sell my house. And I was just overwhelmed. I just completely broke down. It was way too much, and I couldn't see my way out of it, but I did get out of it. So pop a hell yes in the comments if you can relate to that, because I'm here to tell you that even if you are at a 10, there are ways to get yourself back down to the other side of the scale. Probably not to a 1, maybe not even to a 2, but I do believe that you could probably get to a 3 or 4. In any case, you can definitely move that needle. So, how did I go from that catastrophic mess to where I am today? And spoiler alert, I need to tell you, it wasn't just one thing and it wasn't instantaneous. But stick around because my journey doesn't have to be yours. I'm giving you the cheat code here so you can do it a lot quicker than I did. My journey was about 10 years of little steps, of failing miserably and trying again, of having, these breakdowns and these days of just complete overwhelm. But most importantly, it was repeating what did work, figuring out what did work, and creating systems that I could use to work with my brain so that every single day and everything I did wasn't so freaking hard. When I started this journey, I didn't have an ADHD coach or a therapist or anyone who could help me navigate. Coaching wasn't a thing in my area, and women with ADHD definitely wasn't a thing in my area. When I first was diagnosed with ADHD, I was given meds to try and I couldn't take them. I was one of those people that had really bad reactions. And that was it. That was the only option here. Here's some medication. But I wasn't even explained what ADHD really was and everything that was involved in it. I had to go on this journey alone. So yeah, it took me a long time. And I'll tell you, it sucked. There was just so much about ADHD I didn't know, and way too much to get into in this video because that's not what I want to focus on here. But if you're new to ADHD, the realizations just keep coming. And that's a good thing because then you start to understand why you do the things you do. So you can then start to understand what to do about it. So let's talk about CBT because that is considered the most effective non-medication ADHD treatment. But as with everything, you're going to find out if you haven't already, there's controversy or argument about its effectiveness. And I'm going to tell you, there's controversy and argument about the effectiveness of any and every ADHD treatment, even when they talk about medications. Most will tell you that stimulant medications are the best, but there are a lot of us that can't take stimulant medications. So it's not an option. So that therefore it's not the best for us, right? So there are so many other treatments, and I'm not going to get into all of them today. I'm specifically focusing on CBT, but there are a lot of, something I feel very strongly about is meditation. There's balance exercises that are known to activate parts of the brain that help with focus and concentration and things like that. So there's a whole gamut of treatments out there that you could try. But I want to start real simple with CBT because that is one of the or the most popular. But people, again, they're not really sure what is it? Should I do it? I don't know that I believe in that stuff. So let's first understand what CBT is. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. So literally, cognitive means relating to the process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses. Okay? That's the dictionary version of cognitive. The dictionary definition of behavioral means of or relating to behavior pertaining to reactions made in response to stimuli. So CBT is literally a therapy developed by acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience, and the senses, and how those experiences cause you to react. So let's make that even simpler here. It's becoming aware of the things you think, do, and feel, and noticing how you then react to those things. And cognitive behavioral therapy focuses more specifically on our thoughts and how our thoughts dictate our actions. Now, from a logical standpoint, this makes sense, right? At least I think so. We can all agree, I think, that every action begins with a thought. I don't just grab a cup of coffee and think, I want a cup of coffee, right? My brain has to go through a series of unconscious thoughts like stand up, Put one front foot in front of the other. Watch out for the cat under your feet. Open the cupboard door. And the 5 million other even smaller tasks that need to happen in order to get that cup of coffee. So while we may be consciously thinking, I want a cup of coffee, our subconscious is also working to make that happen. We don't even recognize how many subconscious thoughts go into that one simple act. What CBT does is work with all of those thoughts, the conscious and the subconscious, to make us make better, more conscious decisions. And make those conscious decisions go into our subconscious decisions. And that is a process, right? That's not something that you're just going to snap your fingers and do. But CBT isn't going to start at getting coffee. It's going to start where you're having the most trouble, the challenges, the roadblocks, the things that make you stuck and overwhelmed, like catastrophizing. And that's like when we jump right into the worst case scenario. For instance, say you forgot to send an important email. Instead of just saying, oh, shoot, all right, I'll send it now. You go, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot it. I'm going to look so unprofessional. I'll never get a promotion. Everybody's going to think I'm a slacker. I'm going to lose my job. And then you ruminate on the forgotten email and the perceived consequences. Okay, that's catastrophizing when we make something bigger than it really is. Or we can have all or nothing thinking, or also called black and white thinking, where we see things as either perfect or a total failure. If I can't do it right, I might as well not do it at all. And that is also very common in ADHDers. Or overgeneralization, taking one experience and applying it to everything. For instance, you're working on being on time. And after, let's say, 3 weeks of being on time, you're late. So you go right into, I'm always late. I can never get it together. I'm just a mess, right? Instead of noticing that, okay, I'm late today, but I've been good for 3 weeks. It's that, nope, I did it once. I do it all the time. Okay. There's also mental filtering, focusing on only the negative parts of a situation while ignoring the positives. And that's a big one for ADHDers. You know, I got a lot of positive comments on my presentation, but that one person had a negative comment. So I must have been terrible. As a content creator, I can feel this one. And that's common, right? We notice that one negative and it just clouds all of the positive. We might also disqualify the positive instead of, saying, yeah, that was a good presentation. We can just be like, yeah, well, it might have been fine, but that was just lucky, right? Or maybe we mind read. I know they think I'm lazy and disorganized. I know, I know they think that I'm dumb or whatever. So can you relate to any of those? If you can, let me know in the comments. Let me know. Yeah, that I do that. I do that. I have these negative thoughts all the time. Those are just a few examples of the negative thought patterns that CBT addresses. So that, of course, begs the big question. How does addressing those negative thought patterns fix my brain, right? Because if I'm having trouble procrastinating, how does fixing my negative thoughts help that? If I can't find my keys, how does fixing my negative thoughts help that? If I have trouble blurting things out in the middle of a conversation, how does fixing my negative thoughts help that? Well, this is what I'm going to say unequivocally to the CBT naysayers and the rest of you looking for answers. You can't fix a problem from a negative state of mind. Okay, period. I'm going to put an exclamation mark on that one, in fact. As Albert Einstein said, we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. There's a whole host of neuroscience research that shows what happens in our brain when we're in a negative state of mind. Putting it in very simple terms, our prefrontal cortex, that part of the brain responsible for goal setting and planning and executive function, it slows down. And in the ADHD brain, where we're already struggling in that area, it stalls our ability to initiate action. So basically, the emotional brain, the limbic system, right? That part that feels defeated and depressed, It runs the show, and we end up in this loop of hopelessness and avoidance. Does that sound familiar? So let me give you another quote, and this one is from Henry Ford. He who says he can and he who says he can't are both usually right. So, what does that mean? Our thoughts and our feelings control our actions. And, think about this. How many times have you just been feeling horrible? You're laying around and somebody's like, come on, get out of bed. And you're like, I can't. I just can't. I can't do this. I can't. But then maybe something exciting happens. Think of you're laying there and you feel like crap, and suddenly you just found out that you won the lottery, right? What is that going to do? Your emotions are first going to go in the opposite direction, right? You're going to get all excited, and suddenly what are you going to do? You're going to hop out of bed. So, what changed? What changed was your thought process. What changed was your emotions. So, how do we get out of overwhelm, out of our brain chaos, out of forgetfulness? Is it all CBT? Is CBT the end all and be all of the ADHD fix? No, it's not all of it. But we can't address all of it from a negative state of mind. I'm not going to use a planner consistently if I'm already convinced it won't work. Nothing works. My brain is broken and I'm just going to go back to bed. I'm not going to start a morning routine if I already know it's not going to work, right? I'm not going to even try to meditate when nothing works for me. I'm a lost cause. See the connection there? So CBT isn't the answer, but it is the start. And that is where I start all of my clients. Every one of them will tell you I start them making a pride list. Their first assignment is to start writing down things they're good at, things they do well, things that went well in their day. This is a running list they keep adding to as they remember things. And it can be as big as they got a doctorate or a master's degree to as simple as they brushed their teeth that day. Because as ADHDers, we understand our personal challenge runs the gamut, right? We may have gone to college, but getting into the shower may be a major problem. So, whatever your personal challenges are, if you overcame them even once, you write it down. Make a note of it. Whether you think it's big or little, write it down. Because here's the thing, we are so quick to make note of the things we do wrong, no matter how small. So, if brushing your teeth is a challenge for you, you've already made a mental note of that and you've beaten yourself up for it thousands of times. But then you don't think it's important to also recognize the thousands of times you actually did it. If the negative is important to remember, so is the positive. Write it down. The funny thing about this is, when I tell my clients to do this, they all groan. They all think it's dumb. They don't really want to do it, but I harp on it week after week, and something eventually happens. They may forget about the list eventually, but suddenly they're able to do things they thought they couldn't. I have so many stories of this, but this one is probably my favorite. I had a client who was probably close to a 10 on the WTF scale, okay? She was just in the pits of overwhelm and chaos and paralysis. Her mantra was, I can't. And she always had a great, super valid reason why things wouldn't work. This list was something that she really didn't want to do at all, but she did it. And I'm going to tell you, less than a year later, this woman, a single mom, had purchased land and acted as her own general contractor to build a house on that land. From excavators and builders and utilities and zoning, all of the things. She was able to do this. Now, was it all CBT? Was it all the pride list? Well, of course not. But that's where it started. That list showed her in black and white what she was really capable of. It showed her who she really was. It gave her the power to believe in herself just enough to get the ball rolling, just enough to do the work. So, in my professional opinion, as an ADHD coach, certified in CBT, as an ADHDer who has been in the darkest places with my own ADHD, with my knowledge and experience, I truly believe CBT is a very important part of mastering the ADHD challenges and finding the strengths that we have that we can then use to dig ourselves out of the holes we find ourselves in. It's not the whole pie, but it's where we have to start in order to clear the way to build the systems that we need. So I hope you found this super helpful, and please pop things in the comments and let me know how you feel. I'm open to having conversations about this, but I've seen it in my own, not only in my own life, but in my clients as well and other people that I know. So I truly, truly believe this based on the experience, based on my own training, based on my own knowledge. And I would love to hear your thoughts. And I want to know, if you're struggling with something and you just want a little bit of another little tool, start first of all, start with your own pride list. Start with your own pride list and pop in the comments, pop on our Facebook page and let us know how you're doing with that. But I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you want to work on this stuff, if you're serious about really working on your ADHD and making serious yeah, progress, let me know. Send me a message and we'll have a chat and see if it's a good fit to work with me. But I really want to hear from you either way. I want to know how you're doing. I'm here for you guys. I love to hear success stories, but you don't get to this success until you look at the challenges and work on them. So I look forward to seeing you all again. Thanks for being here with me, and we'll chat again soon.